Hear, O Israel, the great I am is the only power for you. The great I am is one. Speak peace and safety on the seventh day of rest. Rise, O Israel. Now, folks, today's discussion will be on, let's play a game of chess. We'll call it All the King's Men. And today's reference will be Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15. I feel like Deuteronomy today. Now, this game of chess, as a young child, I was taught by my mom how to play the game of chess. And in the game of chess, you have an opening, you have a middle game, and an end game. An opening game, middle game, and an end game. And as a kid, all I wanted to do was just to win the game. I wanted to beat my mom in the game. And it was difficult as a kid trying to, play this game and beat my mom. And, and that was my focus, is just trying to win this game. And I never got the concept of it until I was on the college team, the chess team in college. And I finally got the concept of, hey, in order to win the game, you can't just put the king in check. You have to checkmate the king. You have to checkmate the king. You can't just put the king in check. So in many of my discussions, I've always talked about, the game of chess. So today we're going to get a brief discussion on this game of chess. And I have to use my loud voice because it's kind of warm outside and I've got my air on. So I got to use my loud voice today. Now, the opening game was for here in America. I want to say, and I want to make this clear, we're talking about here, us being in the United States. I want to make that clear. Now, the opening game here in the United States, again, was this European Enlightenment, which we'll say that which are the white chess pieces, and they called it their Renaissance. So they got it from their old country, and they brought this Renaissance here to the United States. And it was contrary to the Dark Ages, which in old Europe, the Dark Ages were basically black people, and they were the Europeans in the old country were pretty much wiping out all the black ideas, the black religion, identity, and all that stuff. They were just wiping it out. Case in point, the Waldenses and the Hugonites. These were ethnic religions. These were ethnic people in Europe. They were being wiped out. Again, something that modern historians won't tell you. So again, they wiped out the dark culture in Europe, and then they came here to the United States and they followed it up, or they began practicing the same ideas here in the United States. These good Christians, again, they secured a foothold and spread their philosophy on every continent. They came here to the United States, they found a new world, they founded places, Hong Kong and China, they founded, places in India, they got a whole island called Australia, what's the other one, Garcia, the island Garcia, they took that island, Hawaii, even Hawaii right now is, the original Hawaiians are right now fighting to get recognition, and this is as recent as 2011. And that's a whole different story. But we're gonna stay on this chessboard operation we got here. Now, we are in the end game right now, folks. You have the opening game. You can have the queen's pawn go first. You can have the knight's pawn go first, or the rook's pawn go first. those are, opening games. And those pawns can take 1 to 2 squares, square advance. But, those are opening games. And then the middle game is when, either your heavy pieces are either sacrificing to get a better stance on the board, or they're actually, beating out or defeating other pieces. Again, so that's the middle game. Now, we are looking at the end game right now, folks. We're looking at the end game on the chessboard, because we already have a base, which is called the United States Constitution, which is forced on black people. Remind you that. The United States Constitution is forced upon black people. Those who call themselves black, or are called black by other people. Blacks, black Hebrew Israelites, Negroes, black Americans, African Americans, anything associated with the word black, it's being forced on them. Now, to give you an idea of what the pieces are, and this is going to trip you up a little bit. The pieces on the board are, you have the pawn, which is regular people. Everybody knows it, a regular person. You have the rook, which a lot of people look at the rook as the castle, but it's not, it's a wall. So don't be mistaking that, these rooks at the ends of the chessboard are castles. These are not castles. In fact, the only piece that can do a castling is the king. And that's when the king wants to move. He can't move out of check during a castling, but he can castle out of harm's way when there's no bishop, knight, or rook, or no bishop or knight or the queen in between the king and in between the king and the rook. The king can castle and exchange one place with the rook. So the king is the only one that castles. So don't get the king and the rook mistaken on the chessboard. And what is the rook? The rook is basically a border wall of protection, or a tower where the police is protecting the king. Police, the authority, is protecting the king, because it's a homebound location. Next up, you have the knight. And the knight is pretty much like warriors, or like executive agents, or the military. This is the armor, the outer armor of the castle. The outer armor, because again, it's those who go out and they execute things. And you have the bishop. And the bishop is pretty much leaders of culture. You got religion, you got, culture, you got your religious leaders, or even atheistic leaders. Those can be a part of culture. They say they're not a religion, but they have to believe in something. So, you can put that in. And the prime example is, was it St. Peter's Church, where the Orange president went and stood in front of the church in DC. That's an example of it. The leaders of that church is an example of culture here in the United States. You can say NASA also, the Nazi leaders who started NASA. Nazi leaders who started NASA. That's culture also. Scientific culture. And then you have the queen. And this is going to throw you off, because the Bible talks about kings of kings and lords of lords. Now, the queen is a piece that moves across the entire board. Wherever she wants to go, she can move diagonal, horizontal, vertical. She can move anywhere she wants to go. And the queen, I want you guys to know that the queen is the president of the United States. The president, vice president. That is the queen represented. Why? Because this person, again, moves all over the chessboard, representing the king. And what is the queen, or excuse me, what is the king, may you ask? The king is the representative government. It's called the Congress. It's called the Constitution of the United States. May I add, this Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be made in pursuant thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. The supreme ruler is the king. So it can't be the president, which this document identifies the office of the president. So the office of the president is to represent this document here, which the Congress upholds. And so your Congress is actually your kings. So King of Kings, you have the President of the United States representing the queen piece on the chessboard. And he is a king of other kings because they are granted these privileges to move wherever they want on the chessboard. You guys need to understand that. You guys need to understand that clearly. And is that all the pieces? So you got the king, which is, the standard banner, the castle, Article 6, Chapter, or Clause 2, which is the Senate and the House. These buildings are not going anywhere. They're stationary. Then you have the queen, which is royalty, privilege, or the president, which goes everywhere or anywhere they want to on the chessboard. And you have the bishops, which are the culture and the religion or religious leaders. You have the knights, which is the armor, the military or the executive agents, the attorney general, and you can look up their documents. It's called United States Attorney General or Justice, the thing that they use to rule by. You can look that up. And then we have the Rook, which is again the police, the tower or wall of protection. And don't get the Rook confused with the king, because only the king can castle. The Rook is in place, it exchange places when the king castles. The Rook cannot castle alone, for that matter. It needs the king's authority for the king to castle. And then you have the pawns. And the pawns is, the regular people who are outside of the wall, who stand outside of the wall, and who are told to be, how do you say, patriotic to all the things that's happening inside the wall, inside the castle. They're told to be patriotic. And all the things that are inside the wall, inside the castle, these things are being upheld without those individuals. Now, folks, biblically, or let me add this one thing, gerrymandering, which is cracking and the packing of the constituents who are patriotic to this walled kingdom system. And every level of government, from the beginning of this government, gerrymandering has been a philosophy to destroy indigenous people, to destroy the regular people, the indigenous and regular people of the United States. And to read that Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15, thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. So this is a person for the Israelites to be king over them, someone that God chooses. To finish up the quote, one from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not of thy brother. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Now, what the philosophy of Christianity does is that they want you to believe that, hey, there's this New Testament. They want you to believe that, okay, we don't have to deal with the Old Testament or those laws are done away with. That's what Christianity will tell you. But see, the fun fact is when they look at verses like 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead in a quiet and peaceful life in all godliness and honesty. When Christians look at verses like this, they're thinking that, hey, Timothy is saying, we have to look at all kings and, bless them and, do all these type of things, look at their authority as holiness. That's what Christianity wants you to believe. But the fun fact is that this is Timothy, and his predecessor was the Apostle Paul. And the Apostle Paul, he watched that the Apostle Paul get imprisoned by Romans. This is the thing that Christianity don't tell you. And I'm damn for sure that let me not use that word. I'm damned sure. Let me not use that word either. I am sure that Timothy was taught by Paul, who calls himself the Hebrew of Hebrews, knew that there's this prophecy in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verse 19. And it reads, say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph and the stick of Judah. Let me read that one more time. Say unto them, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, a tribe, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows. And I will put them in even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. This is a prophecy in the Old Testament that the Hebrew of Hebrews, he calls himself Hebrew of Hebrews, the Apostle Paul should have known this prophecy. And and while he was in prison, he should have let Timothy should have known that this is a prophecy of Hebrew Israelites. But again, Christianity is not going to teach you that. They're going to teach you that, again, that all is the same in, Christendom. Whereas they want you to believe in this thing called integration. When you got a whole different people that you have murdered, raped, and pillaged, and you gave them your education, an education for that matter. When so-called black people look in their dictionaries, everything black is negative, from woolly hair, look it up, to black skin, to anything described black is a psychological destruction to the people reading, especially those who have dark skin, black skin, called black. But again, to finish that statement up, Timothy should have known of this prophecy. And when you look at words like the word Gentile in the New Testament, it means nation. Timothy knew that he was talking about those scattered Hebrews that were in other nations. When he said that that they're going to be teaching, being the minister of the nations, minister of the Gentiles, Christianity is not going to tell you that that translated form, it means nations. It means those two tribes were considered nations, and they were spreading out to go find them. Again, in the book of Acts, you will see that the Jews returned from all those scattered nations, and they were listening to those people preach in tongues, speaking in specific languages that they were coming from. the language of the countries that they were coming from. Again, Christianity don't tell you that. Christianity don't tell you that. But this here is Timothy saying, hey, there's an authority that we ought to be paying attention to. And it's not the one that the Romans, it's not the Romans that he was talking about. It's an authority that, again, these first century Hebrew Israelites were saying, creating a kingdom for God. And then the Romans came along in AD 70 and destroyed all that and gave you Christianity. And now we got all the translations all jacked up. Lost in translation and transliteration because some trafficking thieves decided that they were going to take a culture, take an inheritance from a different people and make a religion out of it. That's what you guys are seeing. I'm going to end right there. Yeah, we're already at 21 minutes. So I'm going to end right there. I'm going to let you guys know, again, I am a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a conscientious objector and an minister of peace. Hebrew Israelite.